First question is, before we even understand this derived law, why is the received law not enough? If God gives us a written 5 books of Moses full of information, and then he explains so much of that to Moses, right, in the received oral law, we should be covered. Why do we need more oral law than that? Good question?
Things change.
Okay, very good. So let's read text number 2, and we're going to sort of figure this out together. Let's read text number 2 from Maimonides. When we look in the Torah says this: Basukos teshvu shivas yamim. Sit in a sukkah for 7 days. That's all the Torah tells us. Okay, a sukkah, we'll translate that as a hut. That's an accurate translation. What defines a hut? So God, in the received oral law, explains to Moses what a sukkah is, and he gives him a lot of information. And Maimonides spells out, as we just read, a lot of the information that defines what a sukkah is. Okay, which the Torah obviously doesn't define, because it just tells us to sit in one. It doesn't tell us what it is, what it needs to be constructed about, how small it can be, etc., etc. But there are many questions that remain beyond the received oral law, the explanations that God gave to Moses about a sukkah. A few examples. God tells Moses about the minimum height of a sukkah. He does not tell Moses about the maximum height of a sukkah. Now, my imagination tells me that in the Sinai desert, there were no skyscrapers when the Jews received the Torah, right? But let's say someone wants to make, they had a big sukkah contest a few years ago. It was in the news. I don't know if you saw it, all these interesting different sukkahs. A few of them were in kosher, actually. But anyway, so imagine someone wants to make a skyscraper sukkah, right? The tallest sukkah in the world. Well, is there any limit to the height of a sukkah? And because the received law, oral law, does not actually tell us about the height. Does a sukkah have to be made for the holiday? Let's say I have a nice hut in my backyard, and I just want to extend it into sukkahs for the holiday. Is that good or not? Does a sukkah require a mezuzah? Do you put a mezuzah on your sukkah? Right? Good question. I don't know. Right? The received oral law says that one should eat and drink in the sukkah. Well, what happens if you just want to have a sip of water? Do you need to go into the sukkah for that? Right? What defines eating and drinking? So the bottom line is, God did not provide Moses with the received oral law with all of this information. And you can probably imagine what how long Moses would have been on that mountain if God would have spoken to him about all these things. We can especially in our modern world, we can come up with an endless number of scenarios and situations where we know the Torah does not explicitly discuss. If someone lives in a mobile home, right? You're downsizing. You're going to a mobile home, right? Do you need to put a sukkah on a mobile home? Good question, Mike. All right? You have to put a mezuzah on a mobile home. Now, there's a difference between a mobile home, which is stationary, but a mobile home that you're driving around. A motorhome. I'm sorry, a motorhome, yeah. Okay, let's be clear about what's what over here. Okay. Did you ever think about this? If someone takes a trip across the date line, you know what the date line is? Right? Now, no one took trips across the date line in the time of Moses. Everyone was on one side of the date line, right? There were no airplanes taking you in one day across the date line. If you go across the date line, right, and you lose a day, right? How do you count Shabbos? Do you then celebrate Shabbos a day later than everyone else because you're a day behind? Because you lost a day. You following me? What do? The received oral law does not discuss the date line. It's just the reality, it doesn't. If you have you want to put a hidden camera in your house to spy on your nanny, to make sure that she's doing a good job with the kids, does that violate the laws of privacy that the Torah lays out or not? There's nowhere in the received law that speaks about, cameras or hidden cameras, right? So how do we know about all of these laws? So So the written law and the received oral law do not speak about this information directly.